Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to let you know, we'll be starting in about 9 minutes. 9, yeah, not 10, not 8, but 9. So we're almost set up, and we'll be going at 7 o'clock. So those East Devon Grecians at the back, they're always the noisy ones. Harsh but fair, I feel. Good evening and welcome to the first fans forum with the new boss, Gary Caldwell, and his number 2, David Perkins. It's great to see a great turnout, and hopefully folks on YouTube, you will also be in for an interesting evening. Format of the evening will be roughly between now and 8 o'clock. Chat with Gary and Dave with a few questions. We've had some sent in, and we'll take questions from the audience, and we can find out how they got to Exeter, why they're here, what they're thinking, what they're doing, what their plans are. So it's some interesting answers, I know, coming forward. We are, as I said, we are filming this on YouTube, so if you should be at work and not here, and you're here, then I suggest you might want to hide yourself from the camera. It is going out, just to make you aware. 8 o'clock, we'll have a little break, and Nick Hawker, the Trust Chairman, I know wants to do a bit of an update on where the Trust is and where the club are. So please stay behind, because again, there's some very interesting information there. So that's enough from me. So without any further ado, you'd like to welcome Gary Caldwell and David Perkins. Don't look so nervous. They've all eaten, so they're all okay. Welcome. Welcome to Exeter, and welcome to your first fans forum. The first of which I hope will be many going forward. What do you think to Exeter so far?
First of all, thanks for coming. I've said it a few times now. We've had an amazing welcome by everyone in the whole city, to be honest. The 2 games we've had at SJP have been amazing. The welcome, the support during both games. Obviously disappointing on Saturday to lose, but still a stadium at the end that backed the players right to the last minute. So thank you really for that amazing welcome, the support. This is a fantastic football club that I believe we can do great things if we keep that spirit and that togetherness. And I'm really enjoying every second I've had here, and like you said, hopefully here for a long, long time.
And how are you finding living down south? Probably the first time you've actually been down south. A little bit different, or is it just the rain just as cold and wet down here as up in Manchester?
I said on my first day the weather was amazing, and it's been horrendous ever since. So I think I've brought the Scottish, and my home now is in Manchester. So I've brought both the rain from Scotland and Manchester down to here. But when it has been nice, it's been lovely. I've managed to get for a swim at Exmouth in the beach when we played Plymouth. That was in October, so it's really warm for a Scotsman down here. So I'm loving it so far. Hopefully the tan will come on soon.
Actually, that is one of the questions coming up, actually. So we'll move on to that in a minute. Why did you send a job application in? Why us? Why Exeter? Was it you felt time to start again?
Yeah, I had been out of football management for a while. I had done different jobs, one with Newcastle for a short period. I worked with City Football Group, which was amazing to see different clubs all over Europe. So I'd felt I'd done a lot of learning. Then I worked with a really close friend, somebody I really respect, Sean Maloney at Hibs, and that really whetted my appetite. I was assistant manager there, and I felt like I could see things, and I was very clear on how I wanted to be as a manager moving forward. And then when this job came up, I think every manager will tell you the one commodity that you need and want and crave is time. And this is a unique football club for giving managers that support and time. I understand football is a results business, so I understand you have to win football matches, but the support that the board and like I said, yourselves, the supporters gives, was really what attracted me to this job. And 2 managers in 16 years, I think it is remarkable, really, in modern day football. So that was really exciting. It's a league I know pretty well. League One, I won it before with Wigan. And I felt like most of my games as a manager have been in that league, so I understand this league, what's needed within this league to be successful. And yeah, when I met the board, when I kind of got a feel for the club, I felt like this was a really good fit for me to come here.
And David, was it something similar for you?
Well, I've been in touch with Gary since he was my manager at Wigan Football Club, and we've stayed in touch. So when he rang me or I messaged him, do you fancy coming down here? I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be all over that. Because I love football, I wanted to stay in the game, and it was a brilliant opportunity for me. So I didn't take much persuading, but I had to tell my missus.
How did that conversation go?
She was great, to be honest. So the plan is for her to move down next, probably September, July, that time, because my little boy's in school. So they're looking forward to coming down. But I am enjoying the time away. I forgot this is on YouTube. Sorry, Laura.
Can we edit that one out, please, for the highlights? So you're here, 5 games in. What do you think? 5 games in, couple of wins, couple of losses, couple of a draw. Pleased to how it's going, and do you think the squad are buying into your philosophy of how you want to play football?
Yeah, I think they are. I think if I've learned anything in the jobs I've had is that you can't change too much too quickly. You have to win games of football within or working within a framework of trying to change and implement different styles of play, both in and out of possession. And I think so far we've got the balance right, to be honest. I think we are changing slowly. We're adapting how we want to play with the ball in particular. Out of possession, we've changed some things that I think have helped. It's still clear the problems we have as a team and what we have to do to be better. But I spoke to the players today really to almost give them that update of where we are. We've had 5 really difficult games, 3 away from home, 2 at home. The latest against the second best team in the league. We've played the best team in the league. They're the only 2 teams that have managed to beat us. But I wanted to stress to the players that it's not good enough to play well at Plymouth and lose, to do okay on Saturday and lose against the better teams. I believe we have a team that can compete and cause these teams problems, and that was what I wanted to get across to the players really, that we're doing well, but we have to do better. And what was accepted last year in a brilliant season, a fantastic achievement to get promotion from League 2, is not good enough anymore. We have to be better when we're playing teams that effectively are championship teams playing in League 1, but that doesn't mean we can't compete with these teams, and we have to change that mentality so that we can, and we will get that opportunity in the coming games, because we've got even more tough games ahead that I believe we can pick up points in those games.
So when you came to Exeter and you saw the fixtures, Plymouth and Derby, and you're on Sky twice as well. Does that sort of excite you, or are you apprehensive, or you just get on with it game by game?
No, I think anyone who knows me, I'm someone that loves a challenge. I'm someone that has, my whole career, whether a player or a manager, I've tried to kind of overachieve and be the best that I can be. I've always said this, and I'm not trying to be humble. I didn't think I was a great player. I was quite slow, couldn't really head it. I had no left foot, but I managed to get to where I felt was the highest level of football, played Champions League, Premier League, and that was only through hard work. It wasn't through talent, it wasn't through a natural ability, it was hard work, dedication. And I've said to players over the years, the number of times I got in a bus after a game, Dave, you'll know this, you've had a few more than me probably, but where you go, my career's over. I was horrendous today. And there's something in you as a competitor that the next day you wake up and you go again, and the next day you improve a bit more, and then you have another game, and that is the life of a footballer or somebody involved in football, where there is much more setbacks and failures, it feels like, than successes. But through that, I think you develop a resilience that you just want to be better and better and better. And I think through my career I've learned that, and I think I can help and support the players at the club just now with that process, because it's not an easy career, and these players need my support, they need your support, because it is difficult every week to be judged by however many thousands of people. So, you know, I think I can help players with that.
I was lucky enough to be in the interview, your second interview, and I was amazed at the amount of data now used by managers in the game. Is that sort of now one of the main go-tos when a manager assessing a player, assessing a game? Is that data and the interpretation of that data now more important in some ways than other stuff that you've done in the past?
Yeah, I think data is very important, but I think you have to use your eye as well, and you have to use what you see. I think what the data does is tell a story, but then I think what is really important is how you interpret that data, how you feed that data back to the players. They don't see everything I said in the interview. They don't see all of the stuff that I showed, but that is my understanding and my knowledge of the team. Then it's how I interpret that, feed that back to the players, how I use that to train the players. So I think the numbers that we get now in football, you see it in the World Cup, every game, there's stats on everything. It's important you interpret that in the right way and feed it back to the players in the right way, so that they go out in the park and they're comfortable, or they're ready and they're as prepared as they can be, but they're not confused by the numbers. So I think that's the most important thing now, that you know what you're looking for and why you're looking for certain numbers.
You don't think that's going to replace the natural ability in a player? You think it won't be coached out of them because the data says you can't do that, or you're doing something wrong? Do you think, what I'm trying to say is there still room for a natural ability player regardless of what the data says?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, like I said, and the information we give the players, they have to go out on the pitch and make decisions. So the information we give them is just to support those decisions, to give them confidence to make those decisions, but ultimately they have to make decisions. So when we coach them every day, we want to send them out in the park with a belief in themselves, a confidence in how the team is going to play and what it's looking to achieve with the ball, without the ball, and then we can analyse after the game whether it was good or bad using the numbers and obviously the pictures. And I'm a big believer in analysing and showing players certain things from the game, more often than not what they did well, because I think positive reinforcement of this is what I want, look how well you're doing it, rather than this is rubbish, I think that's a negative way. So we try and reinforce positive behaviours, and I think that's the best way to develop players. But the end of the day, like I said, the players have to go out and make decisions, and that's where the support from us, because we're not going to get all those decisions right in 90 minutes of football.
So you're not a teacup thrower then?
Well, I have been,
That was David. Really, David, would you like to comment on that?
I've seen him lose his temper a couple of times. I think we won 2-0 away at Rochdale, and it was a tough game. I think we were top of the league at the time, and he came in and ripped our heads off. And I was like, what's he on about here? And then we had meetings with a psychologist after it, so I mentioned it to the psychologist. You can tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in standards, and I'm a big believer in the result is not the be-all and end-all. And I had a fantastic team at Wigan, and I just felt they hadn't hit the standards that I believed they could hit. So I felt it was my job to drive those standards.
Not letting them get complacent.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing in football. I actually went to watch, I took the Wigan staff. Sir Alex Ferguson had brought a book out, I think it was Winning, or one of his books on leading, and he was doing a talk in Manchester, so we went to see him as a staff, and the biggest thing I took from it, he said, was complacency is a disease. It's a disease, and once it sets in, you cannot change it. So he said every day he was guarding against complacency and pushing players to the next level, and that was what I felt at Wigan. At times we were that good, the players were starting to think they were, so I had to constantly be bringing them back to a level where, we can achieve more and we can be better. So it's just constantly driving those standards every day.
So trying to improve each day, each match, each season. Just keep going forward.
Yeah, and it's a similar message that I gave to the players today, that, you know, no matter who we play, we can be competitive, and we have to believe we can be competitive. And, you know, if we aren't, we can analyse it, and we can look at the game on Saturday and see the mistakes that we made, and we can work on that in training. We will support the players through that process, but it's that drive and that determination to constantly be better that's what gets me up in the morning, really, to help players be the best version of themselves.
So when you came to Exeter, you saw it as a community, very much a community club, supporters owned. Did you go, oh no, there's going to be no money, or that's an exciting opportunity, I've never been in that type of environment before?
No, there's loads of money at this club. Nick hides it.
He's just told me otherwise. And I actually have got a question from a Nick H in Exeter later for you.
No, it was something I was, again, really attracted to, that the supporters were part of the club, and they were involved in how the club was run, because I think any football club, you know, I was lucky to play for Glasgow Celtic, which is a phenomenal football club, and any football club, the supporters are a big part of that. So the fact that the supporters are a huge influence at this club is massive. And I said, and all the way through the interview process, my job is to make people better, whatever that budget is, or is other people's jobs. I have to work within that, and this is a sustainable football club in League One that has to try and progress, and I think it's my job to try and do that with whatever means that I'm given.
I tried. Obviously, a lot of work going out at the Cliff in terms of new training ground, facilities. That must be exciting for your staff and players, that you're actually going to be in a room that doesn't leak when it rains and it's warm, the windows closed properly. That must help and will hopefully attract other people to come in.
Yeah, it was one part of the club that I kind of knew about but hadn't seen. And on the first day, I'll never forget, as I turned in, it actually really took me aback how big the building was. We were fortunate, we went round recently and it blew us away, didn't it? The facilities, the environment that we can create. And I actually mentioned it to the players today about that need and that drive to be better. The club are leading the way in that by the building that they're building for these players to be better. So that is the first step that the club have said, we are now a League One club and we want to drive standards and be better, and the players have to follow that. So I think it's a brilliant environment for the players to use to improve.
And do you see that us getting a competitive advantage because of the brand new facilities and the better facilities? Is that going to improve how you do things in preparation for your next match?
Yeah, it gives us a bigger gym. It gives us a canteen where we can change nutrition and improve the players' diets and how they prepare. It gives us a bigger meeting room, and so we can analyse. It gives us individual rooms to analyse with players individually. And it allows us to attract better players to the club by saying, this is a facility we have that they can use to be better. So everything about it says to people outside the club, this club is moving in the right direction and wants to be better. Do you want to come and be part of that? So I think it's a huge statement by the football club of where they want to go.
And how are you getting on with Chaz?
Chaz has been brilliant. Is he here? Is he on the pitch? Chaz has been great. Everyone's been great, but Chaz was in the meeting this morning. He was getting a bit angry this morning. It was getting wet. But apparently everything's draining well, and we've got a few... He's not allowed to swear. No, he's not allowed to swear, no.
That I would like to hear and see. Couple of questions, if I may, from people who've emailed in. First of all, to Dave or David? Or Perks? Perks. Okay. Perks, you had an excellent career as a midfield player, playing over 700 professional games. What will you be able to add to the games of Archie Collins and Harry Kite in particular to give them the opportunity to enjoy a career as long and as successful as yours? This is from Tony Badcock.
Well, I came from an academy like Harry, and sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
How can you help our young midfielders
Yeah.
to develop and move on and kick on?
So I came through an academy, so I got to a point where I was playing every week, and I went maybe a little bit stale at times. You get to a few hundred games, and then I left the club and Morecambe Academy. So, and then from that point, I really kicked on. But the values I learned from Morecambe Academy were unbelievable, and I think I can help the lads now in many different ways, in how to be professional around the place, from an intelligence point of view, how to get into their mindset, how to be a winner, just little things like that. And if I can make a little bit of difference, that'd be great.
So talking of Morecambe, we're there soon. How will that feel going back to where you started? Is there a emotion there, or is it just another game in another club?
Yeah, I'll be very proud to go back there. My mum and dad are going to come to the game, my boys and things like that. So, yeah, I'll be very proud to go back there.
And you hopefully you'll get a good welcome.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. I hope I don't get booed.
Question for Gary, again from Tony. Gary, it's already becoming very apparent that you are an excellent choice as our manager. You appear very focused and determined to be successful. What have you learnt or reflected from in terms of previous managerial roles that will help you become an even better version of Gary Caldwell as a manager this time round?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think I became a manager when I was 32 at Wigan. I started the season as a player, working as a player coach in the academy, and finished the season as a manager, which I didn't think would happen. I had pretty bad hip injuries from 28, and so I knew very early that season that my career was going to be cut short. I tried as much as I could, but by that November, I basically didn't train from then, and by April I was the manager. And I think anyone who knows me well will say, you know, I'm someone that believes in myself, and I thought, I'm ready, I'm going to go for this. And now as a 40-year-old young man, is that 40 still young? I look back at that 32-year-old and think I knew very, very little about football management, about working and dealing with football players. And the journey I've had from then to now has been a bit of a roller coaster. I was really successful in the first season, won a league, and thought this is great. My managerial and coaching career is going to take off. But then you have setbacks, you have disappointments, and like I said previously, as a player, when I had them, I found a way to be resilient, to come back, to be better, to be stronger. And I feel like I've done the same, and I feel like the last three years, where I've been not totally out the game, but in different roles within the game, it's really prepared me to be ready for this opportunity, both as a football manager, but almost as a person, because of the difficulties I think you really find out about yourself in those moments.
So, looking back at the 16-year-old Gary Caldwell when he started on his career, would he be proud of where he is now, do you think? Would he be pleased of where he is and what he's achieved and what he is going to achieve?
Yeah, I think when you're in football, you never really think of that. And because I finished playing and went straight into management, I never had that period of reflection as a player. Like I said before, I'm really proud of the career I had as a player, but I almost feel like that has only prepared me for what I'm doing now. I think as a manager, I'm 40, I'm very young for the career I'm now in, and I believe the skill set that I've developed through playing and what I have now, I believe this has set me up for the career that I really love. I love playing. It became so painful near the end with my hips that I almost fell out of love with the game a little bit, because it was it felt like a chore. I was taking injections to train and play games, and that became really difficult. And then now this career is what I love. I love seeing people achieve things that they didn't think was possible, and taking people to a place where they think, you know, I can't get there, and seeing that development and that transformation in people is amazing, and winning together. I think Perks will tell you that moment where you're in the change room together as a group of players, or where you're celebrating on the pitch after the Peterborough game, those moments are you know, you can't buy those moments. They just happen, and that's why we're all involved in football.
Thank you. Question from Steve Manuel. You've mentioned the term finishers in interviews, and by implication then starters as well. In recent times, this concept has been frequently used in rugby union and limited overs cricket. Can you see a time, especially now half a team's outfield players can be replaced in each match by using 5 substitutes, when certain players are used almost exclusively in these ways, and would you do that?
No, I think it was something, again, being out the game, you have a lot of time to think, and it was something I worked on when I was at City Football Group. We had a psychologist there, and we spoke about different ways of preparing the team, and I always felt like the subs was like, the 11's there, and the subs are, you go and train on the faraway pitch, was the old, you know, when you weren't in the team, you were miles away from the team, and you were almost cast aside. And then I used to think they players are going to be important and needed, and especially now with the 5 subs. So I felt like the terminology had to change, and the mentality and the psychology towards the substitutes had to change, and that had to change with what they call them. So we call the team starters and finishers. The finishers are just as important as the starters. They have a role to play as much as the starters do, and I think so far it's worked well. I think the players still are getting used to that terminology and that role that they're playing within the game. So I think it's like many things that you use over time. I think we'll see the benefits of it, but so far I like the way it's working. And with the 5 subs, I think the players have to know that within that there's a real big role to play and coming on and making a difference to the game.
And the players are starting to buy into that, you feel?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the last 2 games would be the Sam Nombe role that he played in both games was, you know, I tried to explain that against the better teams, we have to be more secure, out of possession. And the game, when it opens up, the attributes he has, the profile of player that he is, will really affect the game. And against Peterborough, he was incredible. The numbers he had. So not only are we saving them, but we're bringing them on fresh at a time when the players are actually, the defenders are dropping physically. And his physical attributes are then going to really kind of show him up in a great light. And I thought it worked brilliantly. I think the timing of the goal on Saturday, the second goal, affected the team, and at 2-0 it's a bigger ask. So, you know, there was reasons why he wasn't as effective as he was against Peterborough, but the role that I gave Giovanni Brown at Plymouth, again similar. I saw the game as really competitive, really tight, second balls, 50-50s, and I felt like the game would open up late in the game. We were still in the game at that point, and I felt it did, and we tried to then make the change then. So I'm not doing it just on a whim. I'm doing it with a real thought behind it, and the profile of the player and how he can affect the game at whatever point we think he can come on.
Talking of players, obviously January window coming up. I know Mr. Hawker has said, actually, don't spend too much money, please, Gary. I know you can't go into detail, but you're starting to talk to players and look at players coming in and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the good thing is, since I've been in, we don't have too much to do. I think the squad we have is very good. We have a lot of good players at the football club, so it's not something I'm worried about and like thinking of wholesale changes. I think every window, as a club, we have to look at it and say, how can we get better? So after the end of every window, are we a better team? Do we have a better squad? does the money and how we've spent that make sense? So every window has to be viewed on its own, really. And then we also have to look at windows in advance. So because we have such a good academy, we have to know what the 16, 17, 18-year-olds at our football club look like and when they are going to come into the first team. So that whole recruitment process has to be at least 3 windows in advance, that we are not just working on this window, although this window is the most important, but we know what's happening next January window as well, and the summer window. So the process between myself, Marcus, and the club is very clear. We know exactly what we're looking for in each window, and we will work hard to come out of each window stronger.
A few more Scottish players, maybe?
They're not very good Scottish players. They're not in the World Cup, are they? So
There's a World Cup on, is there? I'm surprised you know about it. No.
yeah, I watched Iran. They gave it a good go the other day, but unlucky.
Question to both of you. Moving down to the West Country, what's the process been like, and how are you getting on, and has the club supported you in that move? This is a question from Andrew Long, who's moved twice across the country for jobs, and he knows what it's like to move big distances. How has that all panned out for you, and you're happy so far with the move?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I'm the house cook, innit? So I have to cook. We're living together and right in the centre of town at the castle. I do the cooking, Perks does the washing up. So it's going all right.
Were you asked or told?
But no, I've actually never been down this part of the country before. I hadn't been to SGP to play a game before, so it is a new experience for me. I'm really enjoying it. We haven't seen too much. We've seen a couple of pubs there, one or two. One or two. And, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the beaches, and obviously when the weather changes, and the surrounding area as well.
So I've moved down to Colchester when I was 25, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed getting out of Lancaster and experiencing different things. So this has been exactly the same. I've loved coming down here, meeting new people, living with Gary. So usually we get home, Gary makes me my tea, and then we're back on the laptops, looking at games, looking at everything. So yeah, it's been brilliant, and a brilliant learning curve. But the gaffer doesn't stop really.
24/7.
We have watched a few I'm a Celebrities, haven't we?
So I'm guessing work is work and home is home, and you plan your rest days. So rest days you go back home to see your families. Is that how it works? Or are you down here all the time? Or?
Back and forward. At the minute we're back and forward, but yeah, hopefully if families start to come down more. I think when you first go into a job, it is 24/7. You are, every day there's something different. You're preparing for games. We obviously had a really difficult start. It was the Tuesday, Saturday, Monday, Saturday, so it was a lot of games in quick succession. Then you start to get a handle on the team, get to know the players, and then you just start to get into a bit of rhythm. So I think when we're down here, it is 24/7. We're working extremely hard, and then when we do get that time off, you can have that family time, because I think it's really important. It's something I'm still not great at. I'm sure my missus would say I'm terrible at it, and my kids as well, but trying to switch off, and when you're with them, be with them. There's always something going on in your mind about team selection, training, something that is kind of keeps you away from being with them, fully present with them. So it's something I think I have to still get better at, but I try and kind of, when I'm away and with the family, try and switch off and give them the time that they need as well.
Have they been down to watch a game yet, in person?
They came to Port Vale. They came to the Port Vale game. They're coming to a few of the games up north, and they're going to come down Oxford on New Year's Day, but they'll try and get to SJP soon as well. I've not got their strips yet. I keep forgetting to get to the club shop to get their strips, and every time I go home, they're like, where's our strips, where's our strips? So I need to get them.
Well, it's good to see that we're getting some more followers up north. Well done, thank you. And another couple of questions from on email. One was about the players that have been out on long-term injury. How are they coming along? Are they on the right track? Are they recovering well? Are they recuperating well? Are they back training? What's happening with them?
Yeah, I've spoke to all of them at different times. I think that is the hardest part of a footballer's life, really, when you're injured and you can't do what you want your body to do. I think anyone who's played football has had those moments where they've been out injured, so I've tried to speak to those players and kind of help them, and they are all working hard with the physios. The long-term ones are still long-term injuries. They're not going to be back anytime soon, but to have Groundsy back, Czech coming back, anyone else recently? To have those people, just even 2 people come in, gives a huge boost to the squad. So whenever the long terms get that opportunity to get back, even involved in passing drills and park training, it gives the players a boost when those numbers are increased for training. And
another question is from Paul Hunkin. How's the process of recruiting a physio and goalkeeping coach going?
It's an ongoing process. We have identified a physio, and hopefully that'll happen soon. And we are speaking to different goalie coaches this week in terms of interviewing them. They're coming into the training grounds and stuff, so hopefully that will be announced soon as well. Fantastic.
Another question from Steve Manuel, and then we'll sort of go to the floor. Apart from the weather and swimming in the sea at Exmouth, what have you enjoyed most about the West Country so far? These are his words, not mine. Pasties, cider, clotted cream, or perhaps something else?
The farm shop, what's the farm shop called near the training ground?
Greendale.
Greendale's been, the cakes in Greendale, as you can see, are really nice. So yeah, I've enjoyed. Greendale's been really nice.
Yeah, you've liked the cake section in Greendale. We like the sandwiches, don't we? But yeah, what have I enjoyed? I went down to the quay for a walk the other day. Well, I ran to the training ground from the castle, and then I ran back, but I got lost. So I think it's 5.4 miles there, and I checked on my watch on the way home. It was 8.6 miles back. No, I didn't stop at any pubs. So yeah, my geography wasn't the best that day.
2 questions from me, actually. They're very important. Cream first or jam first on a scone?
Jam.
You're a brave man saying that.
I'm up north, way up
All
north.
right, he's Scottish, we'll allow it. And who's going to win the World Cup?
England can win it, but I don't think they will. I'll say Brazil.
Good man, because I've got that in a sweepstake.
Well, I'm actually Welsh, so I'm going to... So, I'll go France. Don't know. Are they losing?
France.
I'll backtrack.
Okay, enough from me. Chance to go to the floor. The super duper Craig, who does a fantastic job on our social media, will be... hands up, who would like to ask a question? Joe, go on.
Quickly before we start, we'll get your question, but I've actually got one from your assistant manager here, Kevin Nicholson. Could you ask Gary and David if the rumours are true that Kevin Nicholson nutmegged them both on their debut in Friday Staff Five-a-Side?
That is true, but we play it every week, so there could be repercussions for that.
Right, go on then. Now the important ones.
Apparently you met Joe on Saturday and he said, "Are you going to sign any players?" And you said, "Yeah, Ronaldo. He's now a free agent." So, is that a possibility?
Well, Nick did say we can only sign free agents, so he's on a list. The wages might be a problem. I've not, no. But with, less than nutmegs, still
We'll
hurt
dig it
for
out
that
for you.
one.
We'll dig it out for you.
Anybody else?
I've just resent a photograph by a mate of mine who is an Argos supporter, sorry guys, and it is Ronaldo's son, Plymouth Argo. Well, I have got a question.
Go on then.
To Gary, when he saw the advert today, when Gary got in touch with today, was the very first thing you did go onto Google Maps to see where Exeter was?
I knew it was south, I didn't know it was this south. It's funny, Julian will tell you I'm horrendous with geography, and when we were the first day, I think I was saying London's not that far, and they kind of looked at me and went, "No, that's far." Then I said, I don't know if it was Brighton. I said, "Brighton's not far, it's just across in the map," and they said, "No, that's really far as well." So I've learned that nothing is near Exeter, so I've learned that.
Anybody else like to ask a question?
When you walked down the training ground the first time, there might not be any answers, but was there one thing you spotted that you thought, "I really like the way they do that"? And was there one thing you spotted that you thought, "I'm changing that"?
Good question. I think the best thing I've spotted from the players is their willingness to listen, willingness to learn, willing to engage in what we are trying to do. I cannot fault them on that. I said that today to them as well. The effort they've gave every day, they're trying to do different things. And the biggest thing I want from them is that belief in themselves, because I see so much potential in them. We all see so much potential in them. And in terms of changing, I think every football manager or coach sees the game a slightly different way. So there is lots of little things I want to change. But like I said before, it's a process that we're going through. I think if you watch the team, even in the very first game, there was signs of a different way of playing, and that every game has tried to or has got better, and we've tried to make that a little bit more. I think you've seen on Saturday there was a couple of times Sparksy dropped out when Jamal had it to play for the back, so that would be an example of us trying to evolve a little bit, and that will develop as well. So every week we're trying to add something to the players' learning and how we want to play against specific teams, both in possession, out of possession. But in terms of who the players are, the characters they are, I've been absolutely delighted.
A warm welcome, gents. Fantastic to have you here. I have the pleasure, before a match day, of interviewing the players up here, and you'll be delighted to hear they are hugely positive about the process they're on now, about the way that they're being challenged, about where they can get to. I was really pleased that you said that you're very keen on making us an established League One club near the top end of the table. It's something we have found difficult in the past, and one of those things we found difficult is holding on to our better players who could be enticed elsewhere. Are you confident that you can hold on to those players that you want to hold on to who could be out of contract in the next 6 months or so?
I think we're trying. I think that is the aim of the club, to be a club that keeps their better players for longer. I think what we have to understand I have to understand it as the manager first and foremost, but the supporters have to understand that at times we're going to have to sell players. That is how the club runs. I don't think we should be ashamed of that or scared of that. I think we should be actually proud of that, that when we do sell players, we send them off. We see Ethan Ampadu playing at the World Cup. He is born and bred in this football club, so that should be a massive thing for the supporters, for everyone to see him playing at the World Cup. So that is the model. We have to embrace that. We have to be proud of that model. And it's my job to then bring more into the football club and make the players that are here even better. And that is the challenge for me. But the football club, the model is clear, that when a player gets to a certain level, a certain age, then they are going to go. But we want to send them with our best wishes and go and watch their career flourish and go to World Cups, to Premier League, to Champions League. So that is something I understand. I'm fully bought into. But I think it's my job to make the people that are here better when they're here. The younger players better, drive the standards and improve the players when they're here, and I think we can do that.
Hello. Yeah, I don't expect you to say a particular position, but if I were to say to you, come the January window, you can sign one player, would you like that to be an attacker, a midfielder, or a defender?
Like Cristiano Ronaldo, if you know what he said. I think we want to improve. Like, it's something that we're clear on what we need. And as long as we improve in the window and the team comes out of the window better, then that can be a whole number of positions. But we are pretty clear on what we need, and the recruitment team is working hard to get us the targets and work with the board to get the players at the right price and make the team better. That didn't answer your question, eh? I've been watching I'm a Celebrity. I've learned from Matt Hancock, haven't I?
Sorry, Steve. I might have misheard, but was that a defender, a midfielder?
All of them, yeah.
Somebody at that, Craig.
Just a question, when we win promotion this season, are you ready for the Championship next season? And that's a serious question.
Look, I said in the interview we have to, be competitive in every game. I think we have been since I've been at the club. I think the challenge, and I don't want to keep saying it's a challenge of the games we're having at the moment, is a huge test in terms of where the teams are in the league. We're playing the teams at the very top of this league. As I said to the players, I'll say the same, we should not be afraid of that. We shouldn't be afraid of playing these teams. We should compete with these teams, and we should have a go at these teams. And come the new year, I think we will know where our season's going to go. But right now, I think the league position is totally irrelevant in terms of where we are in a number, because it's so tight that 1 or 2 wins, you can go right up towards the playoffs. 1 or 2 defeats, and you can drop to the bottom half. So this is a crucial moment of the season where we have to pick up points against the better teams in this league, and then in the new year, see where that takes us and enjoy that journey in the second half of the season.
Anybody else? At the back. At the back. While you're doing that, Craig, how annoying are the academy staff at the moment these number 2 playing for Wales at the World Cup? They sort of puff their chests out.
I've not actually seen them yet, but like I said, they should be really proud that they have developed a player that is playing at the biggest stage in world football. So they should be really proud of that.
And will that attract the young people to come to our club because they can see what can happen to them because they go through our process?
Yeah, without a doubt, that we are a club that gives people a chance, that gives young players an opportunity. So that will always be the case, whether they come through the academy or we attract and sign younger players, then we are a club that is going to give those players an opportunity.
Gary, the word you've used most this evening is the word better. And it's quite a simple question, and I am going to put you on the spot, but how much better do you think you could make our football club?
Yeah, look, I think I can make it a lot better. That was, why I went for the job. I believe, I said before, I believe in myself. I believe in the people I'm bringing to the club. I believe in the staff that are at the club and that have been promoted to different positions already. And that is the challenge every day. Perk said we work 24/7 to find the little details that are going to make these players better. And while Saturday was a disappointment, it's something that it's where we are at the moment. We're in a period of change in terms of a new manager, a manager who was here for 4 years, and the players are still adapting to that change a little bit, but over time, I believe 100% I can make this club better in so many different ways. But it's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of time, and like I said, I look forward to that journey, because football is a roller coaster. You have Peterborough, then you have Ipswich, and there's that highs and lows along the way, but I believe over the career I've had, I've got that resilience and that mental strength, self-belief, that I can help these players and support these players to be the best they can be.
Following on from that, before the Peterborough game, I said to the guy who sits next to me, I'd take 2 points from these 2 games. Actually, we got 3 points, but we lost 1. How do you see that? Is that a positive or a negative?
Yeah, I'm not one for looking at points totals and what might we get from... It sounds a bit cliched and a bit boring, that I look at every game and think we can win. And I work extremely hard during the week so the next game's Oxford. I will watch Oxford, in real detail. The analysts will give us all the details in terms of numbers and what we need from a data point of view. So we are very clear on what we need to do to win the game. Then we have to put it over to the players. How much we give the players is then up for debate amongst the coaches, and how we deliver that on a daily basis. But every game, I believe we can win because of the work that I put into that process. And then after the game, we analyse and we go again. So it's more about the consistent process that we go through, and rather than thinking, can we get a point here, can we get a point there? I want the players to look at every game as 3 points, or the next round of the cup. If we perform at our best and we follow that process, then they have to believe they can win as well. And I think they're getting there. Like I said, they're learning a lot of different things, but I do think they're getting there, and we have to be of that mindset as a football club. We are not, just going to go into games just to be in League One and to enjoy League One. We have to try and embrace the challenge of League One and try and be better all the time to improve and progress this football club.
Firstly, welcome to the club. The one question I sort of had really was, you touched on recruitment and how that's going to be a plan for January and going forward, but also the players that are currently at the club that maybe are coming out of contracts coming up. I understand that there's a few that are probably quite key players. Have those sort of discussions started, or the thoughts towards that started, so that we can retain those players?
Yeah, we've discussed in great detail the squad that's there and what players we want to kind of look at extending contracts and stuff. So that is very much part of the January window and after the January window. So I think recruitment, because of the winter and the summer windows, it almost feels like it only revolves around those moments. But recruitment is an ongoing daily thing. Although the main focus is preparing for the FA Cup tie on Saturday, there's also meetings and discussions and watching different players, and so that process is running alongside preparing for games.
Anything else? No? Go on.
This run of fixtures that we're in now, like I say, puts us against top teams. It's a mirror of our April month fixtures, the run into the end of the season. Does that fill you with horror, or are you excited about it?
No, like I said, I think we have to embrace this challenge. That the great work that was done last season has given us this opportunity, and this is what you want in football. You want to be tested, you want to be challenged. I think the next few games heading into the new year are going to see, where we want to be in terms of this league campaign. And come April, hopefully we are fighting at the right end of the league and playing those big teams and big games where we can enjoy that challenge.
No, you don't want to hear him doing karaoke, I can assure you. So, just like to say unless there's anything else, big thank you to Gary and Perks for giving up your evening. It's been wonderful. Learned so much. Thank you for your time. Also like to thank Seth, Scott and Craig for their work on the media stuff. It's been brilliant. I hope it's been brilliant. Anyway, Seth on YouTube. And thank you for attending in person. One last thing I'd just like to say is a note went out earlier about Kit Out the Cliff. We are now over £55,000 raised. So it's a big thank you to everybody who has contributed to that, either actually putting money in the buckets or raffle prizes or whatever you've done towards that target. Elaine Davis can't be here tonight to say thank you personally. She has a heavy cold, but she says thank you. There's a couple of people in the Midlands have been very generous, as have a couple of people who've won the foundation grant money every month. They've given the money back to the club. So it's wonderful that people are doing that. And all that now needs to be bought for the cliff is some shelving, I've been told. So we've got all the equipment needed to kit out the cliff for the staff and the players. So a big thank you on behalf of the club and the trust to everybody who's done that. Yeah, I think that does it. We'll go for a short break, come back about 8:15, and then Nick would just like to say a few words about the state of the club and the trust. And of course, it wouldn't be a function without a raffle. Proceeds to the raffle will go to Kit Out the Cliff. So Gary, could you call out a... So yeah, yellow strip 496. I'll just call... Yellow 91 to 95. Just go through and claim your prize. Uh, 341 to 345. Like to go through and choose your prize. 346 to 350. Oh, go on then. 311 to 315. Any idea how much we've raised, Nick? 376 to 380. 246 to 250. 231 to 235. 241 to 245. 396 to 400. 316 to 320. 476 to 480. 21 to 25. 30. Another 8. 336 to 340. 191 to 195. 101, 105. 186, 190. 106, 110. No, it can't be that, because that's his. Go on, Craig. 2 more. 131, 135, and 96 to 100, and that's it. Go and get yourself a drink or a natural break, and we'll be back soon. walked it out the cliff. £105. So thank you very much indeed.
Trust AGM, you will have seen these slides before. So is that any better? Not a lot? How's that? Is that better? Yeah? Cool. So if you're at the Trust AGM, you would have seen these slides before, so apologies for repeating them, but I know a lot of you won't have seen them. So we're a supporter-owned club. We want to give you a look at how the club's performing financially. These aren't, our AGM is on the 8th of December, so these accounts haven't been fully audited yet. They're due to be completed by the end of this week, and we'll send out the financial return with the AGM invites, so some of you will get one, some of you won't. But we'll go through the numbers anyway. I can't tell you very much from what you can already read. At the end of last season, net current assets on our balance sheet was 3.4 million, up on the previous year. Operating loss, so we actually lost £269,000 last year. That might sound a lot. It is a lot, but I draw your attention to the fact we had transfer income of 1.5 million, and that turns us into a profit of £1 million. And somebody was saying earlier about, are we always going to sell our players? So it's looking like it, and in all honesty, and unless we stick our admission prices up, season tickets are going to be around £1,000 each, you know, so you'd probably prefer us to sell a player. But this is where we ended up to. Believe it or not, in terms of League Two, League One, these are really good numbers. These are really good numbers. And behind all of this is a really strong cash flow. So it's not just about how much you make or don't make during a season, it's how much money you've got in the bank that services all of the costs that you have during the year. And we've got a really strong cash flow. So good news. Actually, I should have said my daughter's watching this, and before I left she said, "Daddy, can you wave to me on YouTube?" So, hi Shannon. So stuff that's happened since the year end that will affect our profit and loss situation. Obviously, redevelopment of the Cliffield training ground. That's a £3 million bill, which we're starting to pay. We're starting to get the invoices from the people who are delivering it for us. And that, of course, was voted for by the Trust membership. So as a club, we're really proud of that. The fact that we went out to our members and to our supporters and said, is it okay if we spend £3 million on a training facility rather than on players or anything else? It's really important, and it's a really strong signal around supporter ownership. Puts you in control. But actually, the lovely thing is that supporters are making wise choices, and this will strengthen our club for a long time to come. Should be completed by January 23. It's absolutely on target at the moment. I was fortunate enough to have a tour around it just recently, and it's amazing inside. At the moment in the pavilion that we've got, the players refer to the gym team, which is the combined gym and canteen in one. Two beautiful facilities now that will make a big difference to their lives. Often asked about these stats. So we don't own St James Park, as you know. The OTR is this building that we're in now, the Tiverton Road. Exeter Limited, so that's a group of shareholders who bought this building when the club were in dire straits, and you all know the history 20 years ago, but they bought the building so that the ground couldn't be sold to anybody else, because the ground was useless without this building. So some very dedicated supporters bought this building, We have a lease till September 2032, which we just signed in the last month. But it's the directors of OTR don't earn any money. They won't make any profit out of this at all. All we have to do is pay them back their original loans, and the building becomes ours. So there's no profits. There's some corporation tax to pay. There's audit fees to pay. But aside from the usual costs of running a business, it's we should be really grateful to those directors at the time. The lease to Exeter City Council, that's for the pitch, for the stadium. We signed a contract, I think it was last year, that takes us to August 2046, so we're going to be here for the foreseeable future. And the Cliff Hill training ground, again, that was signed just after we took, just before we took delivery of the buildings out there. And we're going to be there until 2046. And the Clifford Hill, of course, you all know the history of Cliff Hill. I'm not supposed to call it Clifford Hill, it's actually the Cliff Hill, which was a family requirement that we refer to it as the Cliff Hill. But really, really grateful to those people who've always helped us, particularly the City Council. They could do an awful lot with this land, I'm sure, if they were so inclined. I'm not sure. So in terms of this year, when we budgeted for this year, we budgeted for an average gate of 5,400. We're obviously exceeding that quite considerably. We're averaging around 6,000 now. So in January, we're going to going through the process now of rebudgeting. Gary was talking about the January transfer window. He needs to know how much money we've got that we can say, this is how much you can spend on players this year. So we're going through that rebudgeting process to work out exactly how much we can give him to add to the squad to renegotiate contracts. Increased investment in the playing budget. We've done that. I think Matt said at the beginning of the season he didn't have an increase. That wasn't entirely true. He did have an increase. We're a long way behind the likes of Charlton and Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich. I mean, a long way behind. But in terms of all the other clubs, we're probably just below mid-table in terms of the playing budget that we provide. And we will look to increase that year on year, particularly if our gates stack up. Important thing to mention on the playing budget is that the Trust subsidised this. So that this season, the Trust is subsidising the playing budget by £200,000. So we guarantee that figure to the club. They can, whatever the budget the club set, we add £200,000 to it. We might make that money during the course of the season, in which case we never actually hand it over. But if the club were to suffer in any way because of that, we would hand over the £200,000. The clear objective at the moment is to be a sustainable League One club. I again talked about earlier this evening. We know that there are potentially a lot of change next summer. We've got players out of contract, and we have to back Gary to be able to replace those players, or actually keep them here. And we've spent quite a lot of time doing that, trying to keep the out of contract players here. Certainly, there are some big names amongst them. But the Alfie Pond transfer, which we're bound to mention, is a testament to why we need the academy. So Alfie barely pulled on a City shirt for the first team. We got a great deal of money for such a young player. That will make a big difference at the end of the season to how we've performed. There are other players we know, and it certainly gets reported to me, who are playing in the under-16s that look like in a few years' time, in 5 years' time, we'll still be bringing in, being able to bring through players that we can sell on, and hopefully get those great sell-on deals. The guy who does all our contracts, Andrew Rothwell, does a brilliant job at building in sell-on clauses the likes of Ollie Watkins, which makes a huge difference because you get that initial transfer fee. Often that's spread over 3 or 4 years, but then you get more money depending on how many appearances they make. Be careful what I say because we got in trouble the last time. We things like if certain teams stay in the Premier League, we'll get a little bit of money. If players play for the England team, we get a little bit more. So really, really, really important. That's the last slide. It's a kind of microcosm of what's going on, but I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you might have. We're in a really good place right now. Financially, we've got a tough squad. I think we've got a great new manager. He was brilliant tonight, very honest, very, very open. I know that everything that he said is true because it's what he's telling me when we had meetings, and we had a long meeting this afternoon. So I'll try and answer any questions that I can. But I thought it'd be interesting for you to see those numbers. 8th of December is our AGM, so that's when the proper accounts will come out, and we'll have a fans forum shortly afterwards. Well, we'll present the full accounts to you and give you a much deeper dive into them. Any thoughts, any questions? Bernadette?
It's really good to hear you saying that things were in a good place and to see, I wasn't able to be at just AGM, so I'm grateful to be able to see that today. But there must be something that keeps you awake at night, and I'm just wondering what that might be.
We've got a Labrador that barks a lot. What keeps me awake at night? Probably at the moment it's just at St James's Park. There's a lot of we're very restricted with space and with opportunities to generate money. So we spend an awful lot of time looking at how we can bridge that gap between the operating loss and the profit and loss after transfers, because we know there'll come a time when a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons where we don't make so much money on player transfers. That's almost certainly going to come. So we spend a lot of time trying to think, how are we going to bridge that gap? And when you look at St James Park, if you've ever queued for it, I always have a pasty on match days, and I leave it until kick-off to go and get it because I don't have to queue. We reckon that at around 4,500 to 5,000 we're full in terms of how we can generate more income, sell more pasties, sell more beer, sell more, get more people in the shop. That's if anything, that's what keeps me awake is that how do we bridge that gap being at St James Park.
So therefore, people are getting there at half time, can't buy pasties, can't buy sausage rolls or whatever, it's all sold out. Surely that's a revenue stream that you're keeping out on?
It is. It's depending on how many people are being disappointed, because what we don't want to be doing. We actually, earlier in I don't know if Carrie's still here, but we agreed that we had so much leftover stock, we were going to give it to charities, food banks and homeless charities and that. So getting that balance right is really, really difficult. I don't know if Carrie can expand on that, because our commercial manager, yeah.
But it just seems to be happening quite a lot.
Yeah.
Recently. Whether that's because of the increased rates or not, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think the main thing to explain that is that obviously we've seen an increase in attendance this year, like nothing we've ever seen before. We have to order our pies and pasties a week before the game. So we kind of order it based on what we think it's going to be, and because we've seen that spike at the last minute, very often there isn't enough coming in, and it's quite difficult to transport pies and pasties like between the different stands during the game. So we tried to kind of redeploy what we've got left. Each game we are increasing our order to try and see if we can reach that amount that's going to be suitable to hit every kind of outlet up until half time. I do appreciate that there have been a few occasions where people have gone at half time and we have run out of capacities, but it is a bit of a balancing act so we don't have too much wastage at the end of the day as well, and just making sure we're putting the right amount into the right places. Like I said, we order a week out and very often 2 or 3 days before we'll see a massive spike, and we're starting to predict that now because it is becoming a bit more of a pattern, so it is making it a little bit easier for us to kind of plan when it comes to stock for the match day. This year's been a little bit of a learning curve on those spikes, but we will get there.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of do understand that, but it can be quite frustrating when obviously you know, everybody wants to spend money and they can't, and it will be revenue for the club, obviously.
No, you're not wrong. It's just, as Carrie says, it's about getting that, being able to prejudge how many people want 6,000 one week, 7,200 the following week is sorry, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to go back on that point as well. You mentioned about shop as well. I think a couple of years ago, I'd probably go in there and buy something in there most games, whereas now I feel like the merchandise side of things in the shop has kind of gone downhill a little bit. Just wondering if there's any scope for any more merchandise to come into the shop, or what the plans are planning to improve like the online offering as well.
I'm so pleased that Carrie's here tonight.
Yeah, I know Nick's working really hard to kind of improve the type of merchandise that we've got in there. We're also doing a lot of work on making sure that we're keeping, I know brand's the wrong word, but we're trying to keep everything within brands, so we're not getting things in different reds and things like that, and the logo's really clear and it's good quality, so we're changing a lot of our suppliers.
Right.
And we are trying to get everything online as well, which is proving to be a big job. But we've got a lot of stuff coming in the next couple of weeks in time for the season. Lead times from the factories have gone, they say 3 weeks, it sometimes turns out to be 5, which isn't ideal. But yeah, we've got stuff coming in all the time and we're trying to grow that. But if anybody's got any suggestions of what you'd like to see in the shop, absolutely let us know.
There was the stuff that the terrace used to do. I understand obviously the deal you had with them was obviously run out, expired, whatever.
It has. We're going to speak to the terrace again because they do a lot of the retro stuff.
Yes.
Which, because we have to order in bulk, isn't always practical for us to do. So we are going to start engaging in conversations with the terrace again about stocking that type of range.
Yeah.
And obviously with the 20-year anniversary coming up as well, we're going to be looking at additional items that we can put in, which is kind of going to be exclusive for that type of celebration as well. So there's a lot of ongoing. We haven't kind of disregarded the terrace. We're just going to take a slightly different approach with them and get them to do all the retro stuff that practically we can't kind of hold in the shop. So hopefully that will broaden the options really for everybody to kind of see what there is. But if anybody does have any ideas, please let us know. Sorry? But yeah, just let us know, and obviously if it's something that we can add to the collection that we've got going on down there, or the range, then we absolutely will.
Brilliant.
Can I just add something to that? Because I say openly, Adam Sansford stuff, it's not simply about running out of stuff, it's about the availability, it's about queuing, and you know, I think there aren't enough outlets. There used to be about 10 years ago mobile food sellers, and now with mobile card payment devices, you can do that very easily, I think. When I can buy a coffee down at the quay with someone who's just stood there next to their coffee machine, who just presents me their card thing, you know, so it's very easy. So I think you can do that with merchandise as well. It's quite a long way on a Saturday if you've got young children to walk all the way around to go to the club shop. You want to buy it where you are.
You might have noticed as you came in that the engagement hub that we had is sat outside. We're refitting it at the moment as a retail hub. So that's kind of going to be like a pop-up shop for us to kind of take places. And the plan is to see what we can do to do a pop-up shop at in the Stansfield stand, so that we can actually, you know, make it more available to everybody with the core products, because obviously we can't carry that much. But the really great thing about the new card payment system that we've got in the kiosks is now that we're starting to get the hang of it and its functionality, we're hoping, I don't know if it will be this season, but to actually put in like a click and collect option. So you'll be able to sit in your seat, order what you want, it will give you takes payments, it will give you a time slot, you'll go to that kiosk, collect your items and go, which will obviously help with the speed of service and the queuing and everything as well. It's just making sure we've got the right equipment in place to make sure that if everybody's trying to drink at the same time, it doesn't collapse, and then people can't get drinks and things like that. So that's what we're working on at the moment. But there's nothing to say that we can't add a retail section onto that as well. So if you're sat in the stand and you want to look at a shirt or something like that, you can do a click and collect shirt and just pick it up after the game. You know, that type of thing. So there's lots of options that we can play with once we've kind of got a proper grasp on the system that we've got in place at the moment.
Sorry, it wasn't a no. You know, we all want the best for the club. You know, it's an opportunity, isn't it? You know, the 6,000 people are there. It didn't used to be that.
Absolutely.
So we want to maximise that. So
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to say, John Lewis partnership, blah, 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 done all this room and all that sort of thing. Well, I go in John Lewis, not very often, because I'm not allowed to go spending, but one...
just have a domestic, you know.
But seriously, I just wonder what... Yeah, we've done this one thing. What else, if anything, are they doing to promote anything, because we've let them come in here, in the shop? I noticed one minute there was a window with the Exeter City Football Club kit in, with the men and all that stuff. Next minute they were gone. Is that the end of it?
No. So that basically we had a slot prior to them going for their Christmas display.
Yeah.
So we took that slot, but there'll be more slots throughout kind of like the end parts of next season. We're also looking at, they've actually prepared to give us a spot on the floor as a pop-up shop as well. So, you know, that's plans as well for next season. Yeah, and that type of thing. So it is a really good relationship that we're kind of developing as it goes. Yeah.
Just to go back to Ultimate Brewer, I'm sorry to be dense, but I didn't quite follow what you were saying. Is it in Ultimate Road?
Yes.
This building?
Yeah, this building, yeah.
Is it ultimately therefore the case that the club will in time own this?
Yes.
Or did I misunderstand that?
No. So the lease, once the, every time I have to explain this, I'll probably explain it differently. But basically, the rent that we pay slowly pays off the investors' loans, and once that gets down to zero, then there's a mechanism that allows either we, the club, take over OTR, so it becomes a subsidiary of the club, or we take over the building and there's a transfer of the freehold. I think probably the choice is we would take over the company, because there are tax advantages to that, but it will become ours. In actual fact, if we had sufficient cash, we would probably buy the loans out, but we don't have to. So there's always something to spend money on. But at the end of the day, it will become the club's building.
And what's the timescale on that then?
I forget, what was the... Was it? So at the moment, we've got the lease till 2032. So if we keep paying that lease, that's when it will become ours. 2032. We could choose to buy it a lot sooner than that.
Can I ask a question about trust membership?
Yeah.
Since I took out my trust membership, no one's asked me whether I'm prepared to put it up. The amount we pay as a family has stayed the same for X number of years, so I'm not think how many now. Are you missing a trick? Couldn't you politely and diplomatically make it easier for those trust members who are already paying monthly subscriptions to consider each year increasing it?
We could. There's again, I'm not going to ask Carrie to speak on this. For the first time ever, this year, the club has agreed to promote trust membership. In the past, it's always been a kind of, we don't want to alienate people who aren't on the trust. This year, they've decided, I think largely because we've helped them with the playing budget, and we can afford to do that now. So the club that probably in December, there will be a drive to get new members, but also to get existing members to increase their subscriptions. We're also introducing a new membership system, and we've struggled terribly with the software this year. If any of you have had any problems with the priority system, for example, it's been a nightmare for us, probably more so for you. But there will be a new system that you will actually control how much you pay. The interesting thing, the reason why we don't force a price increase is because we don't want to become vatable. And if we increase if we went up to £4 per month, for example, we're getting dangerously close to having to pay VAT. And then we would have to recruit a huge number of members just to be able to afford the VAT bill. So because we don't buy very much that we can offset the VAT against. So that's why we've never forced the payment up. We've got some incredibly generous members who do give us a lot more than the £2 a month. But certainly we'll be reaching out to members, I think in December. That's the intention at the moment. But the club are doing that on our behalf, which we're really proud of, because they've never done it before. And all those signs that were gone up, proud to be a supporter, and we're really making progress in terms of the club wanting to develop the trust as well as the football club.
I guess it's something I could have gleaned from a counter, but can you give us an idea of how much the players' wages have gone up? I know we've gone into League One, although they've already been established contracts, I suspect, probably two. I guess the wages are each going up so much each year.
So the average, so I can't personalise this, obviously. It's when we went up to League One, your solidarity payment increases. So the money that we receive from the EFL through all the advertising that they do for the broadcasting, that pretty much took up, was taken up by increasing the players' wages, because they're all contracted. If we get promoted, they get more money. If we get demoted, they get less money. So that's in there. We've managed to stick with the same playing budget, but you'll have noticed this season we've got a smaller squad. That's one of the things I've spent most of this afternoon talking about that with Gary and with Julian. How can we address the playing budget issue? We're lucky that we've got a really great squad, but we know we need a bit more depth for next season. So that's the issue. If I know that the Charlton budget is £10 million a year. We're not even close. We're not even close. So that's the kind of thing we're competing with. And the average wage, I'm quoting this from what I've been told. I haven't seen any figures, but the average weekly wage, beg your pardon, for a League One player is around £4,000 and £5,000. And again, we don't come close to that. No, that'll get announced in the new year. A lot of the EFL, actually there is one more slide. A lot of the EFL contracts that they have, things like iFollow, sponsorships, I think with Pepsi or Coke, expire at the end of this season. So they're busy renegotiating all of the nationwide contracts. We'll know in the new year how much that's likely to be. I'll just have a look and see if there's one more slide. Yeah, there is. I'll quickly go through this one then. Obviously, you've all heard about the fan-led review. That's mostly about how the money gets distributed, so how the Premier League money gets distributed to make sure it's fair. EFL are doing a lot of work around that. Premier League are resisting it like nobody's business, and we're really disappointed that at the moment the government don't seem to be putting their words into action around the fan-led review. It's the white paper that we're waiting for. what we're trying to do through that is to avoid player wage inflation. That's going up through the leagues. It gets ridiculous. I think I heard that the championship are billions of pounds in debt. Billions of, not millions of pounds, but billions of pounds in debt. Article 48, that's to do with the 3 p.m. kickoff, so that there's some pressure to allow the televisation of games that kick off at 3 o'clock. Some of the big clubs are really keen on that because they fill their stadiums and they've still got loads and loads of fans that would want to watch the game on iFollow or whatever the resource is. We're really not keen on it because we want people in the grounds. And we also want people to travel to games. That's what makes the atmosphere. And we think that if they do away with Article 48, you're allowed to televise games at 3 o'clock, then a lot of people wouldn't travel to Carlisle, they wouldn't travel to Morecambe, they wouldn't travel to Grimsby and watch the games, and it would kind of kill the lower league football. And we're a bit concerned about transfer revenues with the EPPP. So if the Premier League decide to give with one hand, they tend to take it away with the other. So we're just really, particularly because of the club we are, and we develop players and sell them on, we don't want them messing around with the rules too much. Sorry, I forgot all about that slide, but all of those conversations are having. Julian and I have them at EFL meetings. Julian's fantastic in that I don't shout very much, but he does. So. Any other questions? Dave?
Health and safety is a prime concern on a match day, which I fully understand, and I can appreciate why they shut the car park to supporters walking through when players are arriving with their cars and so on, especially when there's an awful lot of young children. But the same level of importance regarding health and safety doesn't apply at the end of the game when supporters are leaving on foot and they're trying to compete with drivers leaving the car park at the same time. So can something be done to avoid a possible incident occurring by asking the car drivers to wait 15 minutes to allow the crowd to disperse, as they do at Newport?
Yeah, I can certainly look into that. Certainly look into that. Yeah, of course. It's a very sensible suggestion.
Same issue. The away fans coach, even though we couldn't just about walk through the car park area because of all the sky trucks.
Yeah.
When you got to the end, the away fans coaches were parked right up against the pavement. So you had away fans coming out, you had the home fans from the Stansfield stand all walking up St James's Road. And that was, it was just a nightmare trying to get out because it's pitch black out there. That's real world, the lighting here is not brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's a big crowd. It's, you know, it's almost like an accident waiting to happen. We brought this up years ago when it was in the cow shed. They used to park the police vans right outside the exit gates. Now eventually we got them to move that. So similarly with the increased away fans and the extra coaches, I think they need to be told to keep the exits not just from the ground but also from this side clear as well.
I'll ask. I mean, I've not noticed that myself, but yeah, of course. And I'm not sure how much control we have over that because it's a public street. But I'll certainly go back and ask.
That should be relayed back to the police because they were the ones who were in charge. And obviously, they're the ones who park the coaches surely and tell them where to go. And then surely shouldn't we be flagging, at least flag it up?
I'll certainly flag it up. I think there's, depending on who we're playing, so
it's not always a problem, but it was clearly a problem on Saturday. And these things have to be addressed.
Yeah, I'll certainly ask. I'll ask the question.
Part of the ground regulations is how quickly, or the reason why the capacity is such as it is, I was always led to believe, it was to do with how quickly you can get people out of the ground in case of an emergency, which is why we're hampered because of the exit going down
Yeah.
on the railway,
Yeah.
because it's so narrow, isn't it?
Mhm.
So what we don't want to be doing is having our capacity reduced because there's an incident that can be avoided. That's my kind of way.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. We comply, so there's the police intelligence and there's the security guys who work out when you keep fans behind, when you don't, where the supporter coaches go. So that all of that is predefined. The club doesn't have a whole lot of influence. We can influence it, but we're told what to do. I'll certainly raise that with Justin would be the guy, and I'll raise that with him tomorrow for you. Any other questions? Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Can I just say thank you very much for being on one.